You and I team up. You and I team. You and I team. That's a unity. You and I
Stephanie,
team.
what's up, girl? Welcome
And you
back.
and I team.
Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. So, for those listening and watching, you may or may not remember Stephanie. She joined myself and Fresco on a previous episode where we talked about why so microaggressive. And we really got to dive in on microaggressions. So, I'm very excited to have you back on, girl.
I'm so
To
excited to be here.
Yes, and we're going to facilitate another kind of touchy topic, being sexy but not sexual. And like, what the heck does that mean? You know
What?
what I mean? So there's this narrative going around, and I previously did an episode with Damon and Megs, shout out you two, where we talked about our hoes really winning. And in that conversation, we were talking about the expectations that are held for everyday women in terms of standards of beauty, what that looks like, what is considered acceptable, what's validated, all that fun stuff. So if you want to listen to that, go to the YouTube channel, go to Spotify, all that, you can find that. So today I wanted to bring Stephanie on because now I want to identify what is actual sexual energy versus just being sexy. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like there is a huge, huge difference. It's two separate energies, two separate messages. And society's message right now is women are supposed to be sexy. We're supposed to be pleasing to the eye, and it's all for the enjoyment and gratification of men. That's where I feel where it's at.
hmm Yeah. And I just feel like as women, we were just groomed in certain ways that are so like subconscious at this point to us. And it's carried on and then becoming an adult and a grown woman and having to evolve with the certain things that are acceptable in society right now that weren't when we were young girls
I
is
agree.
like where the confusion comes in because there's a lot of stuff on TV and radio and media and social media that when we were younger would never have been acceptable. And now it's all out there and so accessible.
Hmm.
You have OnlyFans, you have Instagram, you have all these other websites, you have stuff like Tinder and where everything is very casual and very
Right.
the taboos taken out of it.
It's
So
extremely accessible. Yeah, like I remember like just for porn by itself, like I had to like sneak around. Like we didn't have the internet like that. Like we I remember trying to watch like the fuzzy version of the channel. Like we didn't actually like buy it, but we're like, oh, we could still get the
yeah,
silhouettes of it. Like we had to work. Like we had to work for
yes.
promiscuous or very like raunchy, quote unquote raunchy stuff. But now, like you said, because it's so accessible, I feel that the age the age that little girls are becoming, what's the word, are becoming exposed to this is much younger, like way younger than before. And there's actually, let me see, there was an article that I was reading where the conversation around sexualizing girls at a much younger age is also starting to become a conversation. Like they've been noticing that just the fetishization and sexualization of younger girls, preteens, is growing. So, for example, we're thinking about Halloween costumes. We're seeing more and more of these very like promiscuous, raunchy outfits being marketed towards tweens now.
Yeah.
Fashion Nova, like all that fun stuff. Fun stuff. I don't know. That was, am I trained? Like, look at me. Like, am I groomed? Like,
And TikTok videos, things like that, certain dances that they do, certain songs that they listen to, like we would have to sneak and go listen to that kind of stuff.
you're right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And now, parents are partaking in the TikToks and learning the words and doing all that stuff. It's like, I'm probably going to be a parent like that. So it's important to have these types of conversations and to have this type of awareness of like, what message are we really giving? How are we facilitating the messages to the younger generation behind these certain kind of songs and these expectations from society? There's this incredible article on medium.com. Author is L. Bu. I hope I'm saying your last name correctly. But I love how she breaks down the societal expectation that's given onto women, which is creating this whole clusterfuck of like, well, what is sexual and what is sexy? Like, what does that mean? You know what I'm saying? So it was really interesting. She said, the message that women get from society is that they're supposed to be sexy, to be pleasing to the eye, but also this is for the enjoyment and gratification of men. Catcalling is a way of affirming that women exist in the world for the pleasure of the men around them. A woman on the street is a public commodity to be commented upon and scrutinized. Does she measure up to desirability standards that are gratifying to men? On the other hand, women are not supposed to actually be sexual beings. So I've actually heard this conversation a lot, even from men. It's like, what was this one YouTuber? He said guys will be sexually stimulated by a woman in a particular outfit, but then judge her for looking sexy in that very outfit. Saying comments like, she bad as fuck, but that's someone that I could never wife if she dresses like that. Like if she's wearing something that's very promiscuous and form fitting.
Or you shouldn't wear that if you don't want attention.
Right. Right. And it's
I
like,
also like so I I like to dress. Like I like to dress. I guess you would I don't even think I would call it sexy because I like tone it down to a certain extent. Like I just like to look good. I like fashion, I like clothes, I like shoes. Like I like to dress. I also have a large chest. I don't like that I have a large chest. So there's a lot of times that I will cover my chest. Like I barely expose it.
mhm,
And I was working in a place and I always wore like, pencil skirts and tried to dress nice or whatever. And I had a boss and I would wear, mind you, like turtlenecks
can
with.
I ask, did you start to feel self-conscious around your breasts about your breasts when you were getting unwanted attention?
Yes, I didn't want it to be a focal point. I
Mhm.
didn't want that to be like I didn't want that to be who I was defined as. Like I just didn't I wasn't me. It wasn't about that. Like there was so much more to me than that. Like
Right.
I was always a curvy girl. I was never like the skinny stick figure girl. I always had hips. I mean, there was 1,000 times I've gotten told I have childbearing hips. Like obviously we know
Is that
who's
a
not
compliment? Like
coming from women. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
um, but I always tried to hide my breasts. Like I would do photo shoots and I would be the girl like tucking them into my armpit, and the photographers would be like, You're the first person I've ever seen do that. Like most girls want to enhance that. And I'm like, no.
Right.
Like cut if you can hide them a little bit, can you tone them down like in Photoshop? But I had a boss and I would literally be very self aware of how I dressed at work because a lot of the other women at work didn't really dress like me. Um, and so I always felt like, what's that movie with the girl with the A on her shirt or whatever?
Oh, Scarlet Letter.
Right. So I always felt like that. Like when I walked down the hallway, like I had a pencil skirt and a form fitting top on, and like the other women didn't necessarily dress like that. So it was like, I guess, sexy, but to me, it wasn't. It was like, that was just me dressing, and it was in the most professional sense I could think of.
Right.
However, even though I had a turtleneck on and my pencil skirt was past my knees, I would go have meetings with my one boss and he would look directly at my chest the entire time. And it was like to the point where I'm like, I can see.
Mhm.
Like you keep going.
Now I'm uncomfortable.
You're,
Okay.
like, and it was like, even though they were completely covered up,
Right.
and I had like a bra on that wasn't pushing them up and like, minimizing them, it
Right.
was still the focal point for every meeting we had. And I
Yeah.
was, does this guy not take me seriously, or is he just like he can't help but notice them? Like, is he a boob guy? Like, I don't know. But like, why is it that every time I come into this meeting, this is what he's looking at? Like,
Yeah. And that's super uncomfortable and like it's chauvinistic, it's completely stereotypical. Like it's like, I feel that the narrative with men and women in terms of what is okay to sexualize is so drastically different. like being put in a position where, okay, this is my boss, and there's like, does he know that he's doing this? You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
that furthers the insecurities of like, well, this is exactly why I don't want to embrace my sexy, because I feel that it's being fetishized. Fetish size? I can't say that word. It's becoming a fetish. It's becoming a fetish or whatever the case is. It's like, dang, like, okay, I can't wear a button up. I can't wear, because like a lot of women with your body type, no matter what you wear, the silhouette of your body is going to show. Like if you've got the boobs, you've got the butt, like it is what it is. That's your
And I
build,
don't
that's your
want it
body
to
type.
show. I don't want to walk around in baggy shirts and look like, you know, I don't want to say this because I don't want to offend other women, but I don't like to look frumpy or like I have given up. So I like
Right.
to look presentable in my
Right.
eyes. And that is, I have a turtleneck on. Like, how much more covered can they be? You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right. Right.
My shirt is literally up to here, but because it's form fitting, like, am I attracting that? Am I warranting that?
See? And that's such like that's such a dangerous way to I use the word dangerous, and I know I'm using that word dangerous because I feel that that is part of the conflicting issue with women embracing their own sexuality, because now there's such a projection onto like, okay, well, if I want to get validated by a man or if I want to get noticed by a man, I got to make sure I accentuate the boobs and the butt. But if I don't want to get that attention, like that superficial attention, I have to cover it up. But where in those conversations is there space for us to be like, well, what the fuck makes me feel sexy? Like I'm over here living my life and dressing what to either get validation or not get validation from these men, a, because either I'm uncomfortable, or b, like I want the attention and this is the only way I can get it. I feel that there's no in between, or there's never ever been a narrative for men and women to be like, what do you find sexy about yourself? Like what makes you
Yeah,
feel sexy?
exactly. And like I have had to learn to come into my sexy. Like I'm at the point now where I am that in between. Like I know what makes me feel sexy. I also know what makes me such a dope woman. But I also am learning to embrace the things that make me sexy and like, damn, I feel good about it. You know what I mean? And
Right.
and I can take certain attentions and redirect it or shut it down. And
Right.
like for me, I don't want to show off my boobs. I don't want to show off my ass. I think showing my leg is way more sexy than anything else because number one, one of the sexiest part of people's bodies is your legs. Like I just think legs are so attractive. And two, because it leaves a little bit to the imagination, like what else is going on over there? You
Right.
know what I
Right.
mean? So I have found that comfortable level of sexuality. I don't know if that's the word I would use, but
Sure.
I've grown into my sexy and I've learned to embrace my body as it is and focus on the things that can bring me confidence versus attention.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think there's a clear definition, because it's like, okay, so what is defined as sexual? Like what is like for me, what I would define is that situation you're describing where your boss is just staring at your chest and it's like, okay, obviously I know what you're thinking about it. I know what you're thinking about. To me, you are sexualizing me. You're objectifying me. And it's making me completely uncomfortable. And like I want to hide from the world now because I want this attention. I do not want this attention. But going back to what you were saying about what you find sexy, and this is what's going to help define like versus like what is sexy. Sexy, just like beauty, is objective. Like you
Yeah.
might find that, a woman's legs, like nice toned long legs, is so sexy. I think that is such a feminine, beautiful feature. And then some other woman could be like, I fucking hate legs. They trigger me. What I find sexy is shoulders. Give me a man with some broad shoulders. You know what I'm saying? And like that's the part where I think women and men even still, like I feel like I have to research the man's philosophy philosophy behind this because I know there's trauma behind that too, but I'm really gonna hone in on the woman because I feel women are just objectified more than men are, or you hear that story more. But taking the time to figure out what that is for you, what you find sexy in someone. You know what I'm saying? Like, is it their laugh? Is it their smell? Is it the way that they make you laugh? Is it their confidence? You know what I'm saying? And in order to recognize someone else as sexy, I feel like you have to recognize it in yourself first.
Absolutely. I think sexy I think finding your sexy and sexuality and embracing your sexuality, I think that it comes from a huge amount of self-love.
Mm.
Of self-love and the work that I've done on myself now, like the woman I am today is a total stranger to the woman that I was when I didn't really embrace my body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
I feel
like,
you.
so I think that a lot of it comes with self-love. And I think it's important that we talk about the message that women are sending because you see us fighting for this equality a lot, right? We want to be accepted as, equal, and we don't want to be treated this way, and we don't want to be utilized as sex objects and all this stuff. Yet we have women who are out there who are objectifying themselves
Mm.
ship of it, yet you're doing the same thing to yourself that you don't want a man doing to you. So, like, where is it? Where's the line that you're drawing there? Because I think there is a line. I think there's a line between self respect and objectifying yourself. And I think it's a very clear line. I think that when we lack self love and we lack self respect, we tend to objectify ourselves in a sexual manner to get that attention and that verification and that acceptance from the outside world.
That's
When we
real.
self love, we don't want to objectify ourselves. We want to embrace our sexuality, utilize it in the way that we want to, and have control and power over that. Instead of objectifying ourselves, we're owning that, but we're also demanding respect with that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love how you put that. Yeah, like it really does boil down to self-love, self-assurance and self-security, like having confidence and not being self-conscious. Like I was listening to this gentleman who was talking about women being in a conundrum. uh we're encouraged to be sexy, but we cannot be sexual. And he posted up this picture of a very voluptuous woman, beautiful, beautiful, voluptuous woman in a very form-fitting dress. When I looked at it, I thought that's a beautiful, confident black woman. Like, oh my goodness, her hair, the earrings, like all of it. And going off of what you said, I was like, had it been the Rissa maybe 9, 8 years ago who didn't have self-love, I probably would have been one of the men commenting under there like she need to cover up. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? Like, and there were a lot of men who were like, she's very stimulating to the eye, but it'll be difficult. Good luck, having her change the way that she dresses later on down the line. And it's like, well, wait a second. Like, hold on. You know what I'm saying? And that to me is a projection of insecurity because it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
the number one dude saying those types of comments is the number one guy who would not be able to a step to that woman,
Or
get
keep,
that woman's attention, or keep her. Yeah.
yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at now. Like, I'm at a point in my life where I've accepted my flaws, I've accepted my physical, but I've also accepted my soul. And like, I've come so far and done so much work. And
Hang on
so,
1 second. Eugene just got home.
no,
Can you hear the lock? I don't know how much this is picking up.
I heard that.
You're good. I announced you're walking in.
Welcome home.
Oh,
That's
wow.
amazing.
I haven't done that in years. I left my keys in the keyhole. Haven't done that in a long time. Okay. Wow, if you heard the lock, this is a good mic. Okay.
Yeah,
Back to what you're saying. I'm so
I forgot what
sorry.
to say.
Um we were talking about how men project their insecurities onto women who seem to have a lot of
Oh,
self-confidence.
yeah.
Yeah.
So right now I'm at a space where like I have the self-confidence because I know my worth now. I'm not totally where I need to be, but I'm way far from where I was. So there's so many behaviors that I will not accept. And like, I don't mean it in a cocky way. I don't mean it in a stuck up way. A lot of guys, when they talk to me, they're afraid and really nervous to approach me because I guess I give off like intimidating like vibes and like stuck up vibes. But then once they talk to me and I have a sense of humor and I'm super down to earth, they're just like, wait a minute, what? But I also will not accept clown behavior anymore. Like, I'm
Mm,
secure enough with myself where I'm not gonna accept that insecure dude who doesn't want you dressing a certain way, who's gonna tell you not to behave a certain way. I'm gonna be me. You're either gonna be able to keep up or you're gonna have to go.
mhm.
Like, this is who I am. And I've come, like, I was talking to a guy one time and I was just like, I'm lit. Like, I don't care what you think about me because I know that I've done the work. Like, and I know I'm a dope ass woman. It has nothing to do with what I look like
Right,
because I'm like a solid four. That's what I say. I'm
right.
like solid four. But when you get inside of here, that's where I'm fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I've accepted that. It has nothing to do with what I look like on the outside because at the end of the day, looks fake.
yeah.
But
Have
it's
you heard of a pick me, like a pick me girl or like a pick me person, like the term pick me?
no.
So it's this new fun phrase that's flying around. It's called the pick me, like, oh, she's a pick me, or like he's being a pick me, like someone who will do anything they can conforming to societal norms so that, they can be in the in crowd or, they can get
Oh,
that husband or they can get, you know what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
like, yeah, it's very interesting how there's so much projection from society on what the standards of beauty are that are completely so out of reach and just not humanly possible without getting like plastic surgery and stuff like that.
That's so norm now. I mean, if you look through your Instagram feed and you see every single person on your feed, there is nine, I'm going to say 11 out of 10 women on your feed have had work done. And to me, I think that like in the beginning, it was attractive. I think like you would look at, the Kardashians, like, oh my God, they're so beautiful, they're sexy, whatever. Now it's become so cookie cutter that like I think that a natural woman is so much more sexy. Like than these cookie cutter women who've had all this surgery and all this work done. It's like if you don't have the fake lashes and the fake lips and the fake nose and the Botox and the boobs and the butt and the lipo, like you're not it. And it's like,
Right.
well, what do they have past that? What do
Right.
they have going on?
Right. And that's not to say any of like none of that is bad. Like don't get us wrong. Steph and
Right.
I are like the girliest of girls. We love our makeup, we love dressing up, we love our eyelashes.
If I had money, I'd get a couple things done. You know what I
I'm not against the boob augmentation, but what we're saying is that there's so much more depth to each and every woman that is out there, whether they've discovered it or not. And you're so much more than a Fashion Nova picture or a Fashion Nova outfit or, getting noticed by some like fuck boy. Like, there's so much more depth to you. And if you take the time to really carve that out and develop that self-love and just loving yourself for who you are, every single role, every single wrinkle, every single blemish, it is the freedom and the liberation behind that work
mean?
is
It's like
incomparable.
golden. It's like, and don't get me wrong, there's still days I'm insecure about certain things.
Right.
But I always say this to my girlfriend. It saves me a lot of time that I don't waste with certain people who aren't
Mhm,
at that level. So
mhm.
I always tell my girlfriends when they're wasting their time with a guy, I always say to them, stop loving them regardless of all these red flags. Look at all of your red flags and love yourself with that same energy.
Right.
Take that energy and turn it towards you. Love yourself. Be really raw with yourself. Notice your flaws. Notice those flags in yourself and love yourself with that same energy that you're giving to somebody else who's not deserving of it. If we
Mhm.
as women were taught that rather than sacrificing ourselves to change a man or make a man better or, play a certain role for a man,
Yes, yes,
would force
yes.
men to rise up because we accept such fuckboy and bozo behavior that men can get away with it.
Because that's what we're taught. Like, oh, boys will be boys, you need to be able to serve your man, like it's you're the one who has to keep up the house. You're the one who has to do this, that, and the third. And it's bullshit. Like, I'm very much like there needs to be a common ground, like you were raised the same way that I was raised. You know how to make a bed, you know how to wash dishes. This is not what I'm signing up for. I don't want a Susie homemaker. I don't want the Susie homemaker role.
No, and you know what? It's crazy because I was that at one time.
Mhm.
I thought that being a good woman was a woman who knew how to cook. Okay. I thought that being a good woman was a woman who washed the dishes and cleaned and came home and took care of the house and cooked for my man and catered to my man. Not to say there's anything wrong with that, because
Right.
there is a mutual love and respect there, and your man deserves all the praise just as much as you do. However,
Right.
that is not my job. Now, I don't want to cook for no man. Like when a man is like, "Can you cook?" I'm like, "Why? Can you?"
Yeah. That part. It's like the question is, can you?
Yeah, because I could build a cabinet, so can you cook? Because
Okay.
that's normal basic life skills, you know what I mean? It's like if you can't cook and at one point I thought that that's the thing that made me a good woman. And looking back, I'm like, damn, I really thought like, oh, if I did this and I was like, and it was like so subservient, like to a man, like if that was who I was supposed to be. And then coming out of a very traumatic situation and growing into my own and really, being independently on my own and not having somebody else be a purpose for me really grew me into my own. And now I'm like, when a man asks me if I can cook, I'm like, why?
Mhm.
Can you? Because I can build a cabinet. Can you cook? Can you make your bed? Can you know
I
what I
love it how there's like the job interview portion of dating. It's like I feel like
I
I'm on like an
hate it.
interview
I
for a
don't date
position.
for that reason. Okay, the whole question, what do you do? It's like, mm, what do you do? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
instead ask me like, are you happy? Like, where
Right.
are you at in life? Like,
Right.
you know, I was actually talking to a guy the other day and he was asking me a lot of questions. And at first I was like, damn, what are you, the FBI? But then at the same time, he was asking me questions that were more interesting than those basic generic questions.
Love those guys. Good job, guys who do
Yeah,
that.
he was like, "What are your top 3 favorite songs?" And I was like, "Oh my god, thank God you didn't ask me what my favorite show on Netflix is because I don't watch TV." And then people are like, "You don't watch TV?" So, like, I was like, "You had my attention from asking me those questions." I won't do dinner on a date. That's like a big no for me. I
Yeah.
don't really date much, but I don't do dinner. Like, I won't do dinner on a date.
Really?
No. I think that that's like a second or third date. I think the first date should be some sort of adventure, like do something fun, go somewhere like cool that you guys can hang out and be yourselves because I feel like you get to see that person, you get to see them in a certain light and like having fun and letting loose rather than so what do you do? Like
I love that. That's such a great way to take the pressures off of a first date because it's like tying in this point, I think really will help us understand like why we have these huge expectations on first dates. So Courtney Martin is an author. Courtney Martin is an author who wrote Perfect Girls, Starving Daughters. And she has a very quotable line where it says, "We are the daughters of feminists who said you can be anything, and we heard you have to be everything." So we're embracing the narrative of like the woman needs to do all of this stuff and men are embracing it, women are embracing it, and we have this societal norm, this patriarchal norm, I feel, of what a first date is supposed to look like, what the woman is supposed to look like, what the man is supposed to do, what the woman is supposed to do by
the flower,
taking
the door opening, the
all
dinner.
of that. And so you have this premeditative checklist in your head of like how a first date is supposed to go. And it doesn't allow the space for genuineness to just lay on the table, like to see your real self, my real self. Cause everyone's like, well, it's the first date. First dates are always awkward. And I love how you're like, nah, let's rip the fucking band-aid off, man. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's like Let's
You
go to
know,
a smash room or
me
something.
sitting across from you at dinner and you asking me 47 questions and me telling you what I think you want to hear. Like, I think that's what dinner is. I think it's like a job interview, basically. It's like when you
Like,
go to a job interview, you're gassing yourself, like, oh, yeah, I could do this. I have this. I have this. You know what I mean? It's the same thing when you go on an interview, a date when you're eating dinner. So, what do you do? What do you like to do? What are your hobbies? What's your favorite color? Where are you from? How many brothers and sisters do you like? What's your favorite food? Like all that is bullshit. No one cares about that when you're dating somebody. They don't really care about any of that. You know what I mean?
mhm.
So for me, I'm like, there was a guy who had asked me out one time, and I wasn't really, like I said, I don't date a lot, but he was a guy that was a lot younger than me. Okay.
Like a
And
decade, like 10 years, 5 years.
a lot.
Okay. She's like, "It was enough to be a difference."
It was enough that there was an age difference. And we had known each other for a little while or whatever, and he was really cool. We had a lot of great conversation in passing. And he had gotten up the courage to ask me out. And I probably would have never given him the time of day, not for any other reason than the age difference. But he asked me to go do something that wasn't dinner. And I said yes because of that reason. And I said to him, I said, actually, I was like, thank God you asked me to go do that because if you asked me to go out to dinner, I would have shut you down so hard. And he was like, what? And so it was cool because for the brief period of time that we did hang out, we decided, so that first time he picked the place and the second time I picked an adventure. And we went on such awesome dates. Like we did a haunted house, we did an arcade, we did pool, we did like so many fun and cool things that there was literally nothing but good vibes.
Mhm.
No pressure, there was no awkwardness. It was just fun.
Mhm.
Like this is how it should be. Like
Did it lessen the expectations that you had, I guess, on him or that he had on you? Like, because like when you go on those dates, it's like, oh my God, I hope he calls me. I hope she texts back. Like, did it kind of alleviate those, societal norms that comes with those first dates?
I think it did because it didn't make it so like, oh my God, is he gonna call? Did he have
Right.
because in at dinner, you're like, you're eating, you know what I mean? Having conversation. So you're like, and you're picking each other apart and dissecting each other. And then you go home and you analyze everything that you learned about
Yeah.
the person, where we were able to see each other's personality shine. And so it wasn't like that, like analytical type of like research after where you're like, oh, um, ew, I didn't like the way that he ate, or I didn't like the way he ordered, or he like you weren't paying attention to those stupid, like
Yeah.
superficial things that you paid attention to at a dinner.
Yep. Yep.
You know?
That's really real. That's oh my gosh, that's such a good point. I've been out of the dating game for so long that it's just like, do people still do like dinners? Is that still a thing? But I love the idea of going on adventures. Like when I first started dating Eugene, I think we like our first date was like at a Mexican hole in the wall. Like we had like some burritos or whatever. So it wasn't anything fancy. It wasn't even dinner. It was like a lunch situation. And we're just like, I had no expectations. He had no expectations. We were just enjoying some really good Mexican food.
Yeah,
Like it was like, so I did appreciate the unconventional approach to it. We went on hikes and stuff, so I did get to see him in that light where I was like, "Oh, I'm seeing some traits that I really do find sexy." Like, here's the thing that I found insanely sexy. I think survival skills, like very atypical, like your manliest man, like it is so hot.
yes.
Like
I need you to
build
be able
something
to
for
build
me. Like,
shit, make a
yeah.
fire out of a stick and some leaves, like
Oh my
that.
god.
Really,
So hot. And he did this the smallest thing. Like to anyone else, I've been like, that's what he did. And I'm like, oh my God, like take me now. But we were hiking and we were like sharing a Gatorade bottle because we were not prepared for the hike. So it was like this hot ass bottle of Gatorade. I think I was wearing like jean shorts. So already I was like, I'm not giving the impression that I know what I'm doing, but whatever, it's fine. So we ended up hiking like a few miles in and we ended up passing by this creek. And he's like, hold on, I'm gonna show you something. So he like literally takes the bottle of the hot Gatorade and puts it in the creek to cool it off. And I'm like, that is the hottest shit like I've ever
Right?
seen. You're
Like, you're
like,
such a
what?
genius. Like,
Oh my
yeah.
God. Just so I can have something cold to drink? Like, yes, please.
But had you just been at boring dinner and movie dates, you would have never discovered that about him and maybe not liked him as much.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. So
and movies is another one. No. If a guy asks me to go to the movies, I am turning him down. I am turning him down, and I am probably telling him, just don't call me anymore. I go to the, I mean, I don't
he's
like
like,
movies.
just give up. Like,
I hate movies just in general. I don't enjoy watching movies. I go to the movies for two reasons, and it's cherry Coke and popcorn. But other
just
than
like
that, like
sometimes I don't even go into the actual theater. I just get the snacks and leave.
I'm with that because it's just like you don't talk to each other. I went to
Right.
a movie one time and actually wound up. This is gonna be so bad. Don't judge me, but I went to a movie one time with this guy, and the person behind us was like kicking his seat or something like that, and he was so rude to them. And then he tried to hold my hand during the movie, and I literally got up in the middle of the movie. I was like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, I'll be right back. And I fucking left. I
I
never went
love
back.
it. I love it.
And it was pre-cell phone, so I didn't have and social media, so I like didn't have to block him on anything. It
Oh,
was
this is when you got ghosted,
you got
ghosted,
ghosted,
and
you
you
got
couldn't
ghosted.
find me after that.
Yeah.
Yes.
You didn't know you would have had to send me a letter, baby. You know? So it was like, but I was like, ew, like this is not a date. This is
What I love, okay, so I don't know whether to feel bad for him, but like mostly, mainly, I applaud you. I applaud the fact that you didn't feel that, because that's what society expects you to do, to stick it through and just justifying the situation of being like, well, you know, it's the first day and just finding justifications to continue being in a situation that you just did not want to be in. I applaud the fact that you just got the fuck up and left. You're like, I have no ties to this guy. I don't know, owe this guy anything. If anything, he's an
and I was
asshole.
young.
Like,
I think I was in high school, but also that brings to light, did he think it was a societal norm for him to be the manly man and protect me from the person kicking the chair?
wait, that's a good point. That's a good
So,
point. And that's the man side that, like, I really want to shine light on the expectations on men too. Like it's they didn't get to this point of objectifying and sexualizing women all by their fucking selves. You know what I'm saying? Like this is projected on a daily basis. Like everywhere you look, it's in the workplace, like it's on the fucking playground. Like it's everywhere. And as I was researching, more around this topic, I discovered that there is a term that psychologists have coined called princess culture. And I was like, there's an actual term for it because I always say Disney movies fucked me up. Like Disney movies fucked up girls'
oh,
mentalities like
hey,
so bad. So
any
it's
movie. The
a
knight in shining
dude.
armor is coming to save us. Don't you know that?
But, like, particularly, like, with my thing and I think that's where they derive it from, like, Disney princesses, like, it was always that dynamic. It was always a damsel in distress, she couldn't do shit for herself, and a guy had to come and validate her.
Yeah.
Like, unless you get married, you ain't shit. Unless like Little Mermaid, unless you go marry that guy Eric that you're in love with, I'll never be happy. So she sacrifices the number like, it's just like, what? Like, this is so damaging. So it creates this false expectation that like, oh, a prince is coming to get me. And then real life happens. It's like, oh, nah, honey, you gotta save yourself. And we don't know how to do that. But
Right.
princess culture is a term coined by psychologists referring to the effect that society's general love for idealized princesses and Disney's $5.5 billion princess enterprise has on children. Disney is making so much money without even realizing, or maybe fully realizes, how their portrayal of the damsel in distress and the princess and all of that is having these long-term effects on kids, myself included. Like I was a heavy Disney kid.
Yeah, but also it teaches us to be a damsel in distress, and I think that that translates in a bigger picture into toxic relationships.
Mm.
We tolerate it because that's what we do. We're helpless. And honestly, after becoming the woman I have become, it pisses me off to see other women playing the damsel in distress. Because
Right.
when I went through my situation, I had a choice, and I always say, I'm not a victim, I'm a victor.
Mhm. That's
Like,
right.
I went through it. I'm not gonna sit here and share my story with you because I want sympathy, because I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor of my situation.
Right.
I'm not a damsel in distress.
You're
I
like,
mean,
"I'm sharing my survival." Yeah.
yeah. So I think that we're taught to like accept that kind of behavior because we're helpless.
Mhm.
We need a man to do certain things and quote unquote come save us.
Mhm.
Same thing with the financial aspect of it. The men always make more money, right?
Right.
Well,
And
house.
interesting that you say that. That's another societal norm that, attractiveness comes with money because money provides provide security for myself and for my offspring. So that to me is attractive. The cars, the clothes, the shoes, all of that, like, because that tells me that I will be taken care of. You know what
Oh,
I'm saying? So
we've been told find a rich husband.
right, exactly. And like, listen, again, I love my mother. I love my mother to death, but she is part of that narrative. Like her and I had to basically tell her, I was like, listen, the conversation about my relationship is off limits because you've completely crossed that boundary because she really truly believes that women are supposed to be
Yeah.
kept women. Yeah. Which means kept women is for those who don't know, is an old way of saying that the man needs to pay for everything. The man needs to take care of the woman.
Yeah. And also, but that's also a way for men, and not just men because it happens both ways, but it's a way for them to control you
Right.
and also give you the damsel in distress role because without them, you're nothing.
Exactly.
And
And
I was
it's
told that by a man. I was told without me, you will be nothing.
straight from the horse's mouth. Oh, wait, no, he actually told you that?
I will take everything from you. You will be nothing without me.
Oh, see, no.
You know, no. I'm just kidding.
It's
but
exactly. Who's
you
got the
know,
last laugh?
but he really had that mentality and utilized the gift giving and the bill paying and those things to control me and manipulate me and have that power over me.
Mm,
Because had I not been able to stand on my own 2 feet and had I not went into survival mode, I would have just been the damsel in distress
right.
and
Right.
probably still in that situation. So I think the men having to bring home the bacon is also a form of that role that is able to dictate what we do as women. How
You
many
know what? You're absolutely right, and, like, I've never experienced it on a domestic level, but I did experience that whole, like, this is what battered wives probably fucking feel like when I was in a very toxic work environment. Like, it was definition of emotional abuse because I would get spoken to out of pocket, and I would get spoken to differently than my male colleagues. Like, that I peeped right away. So, I was like, I'm dealing with someone who is chauvinistic, who's
yeah,
completely sexist, and, is complete and manipulative, gaslighting. And this was all being done to me before I was able to even identify or know these terms so that I can identify this is what was happening. But he would, make me feel like shit or, say things in a way that had me questioning myself and my self-worth. And when that's done to you on a daily basis where it's just chipping at your confidence, chipping at
it
your
takes me
confidence,
down.
chipping at your confidence. Oh my gosh. And then he would turn around. So after, like that manipulation or that negative experience, he would come back with like a latte or, he'd take
Yeah,
us to go get some expensive drinks or like he would flip it and be like, see, I'm a good guy.
yeah,
So,
I'm not that bad.
oh
I
my
was
gosh.
I worked for somebody who was a terrible human, but had mostly female staff. Um, and he, like a lot of us joke about it that like we have PTSD from working for him. I was in my early
I
20s.
did.
Yeah. And you know what? I've had it from several jobs that have had that type of toxic, abusive environment and you don't even realize till you get out of it. Same with the toxic and abusive relationship. You don't realize till you get out of it. Like, damn, that shit was fucked up. But he used to objectify us. He would send the young, pretty girls down to the
Mm.
floor. And we were the only ones allowed to go down there. And I was there 3 days a week. I was the only girl that was there 3 days a week.
Wow.
And, it was a floor full of all men, probably over 3,000 of them. And they were pigs. I mean, there was some that were really genuinely good guys, but for the
Sure.
most part, they were pigs, and it was a very male dominant world. There was maybe, I think, out of 3,000, maybe 20 of us were women, and that's
Right.
like I'm like highballing the number 20.
Yeah.
And when you walked past them, it was literally like you see in the movies.
Ew,
Everyone
I could just imagine it's just like a frat
walked.
house, like
Yeah, but on such a larger scale. And it was like, and I think maybe that's where I came into the insecurity about my body a little bit because
sure.
I was being objectified on such a grand level
Yep.
that I was like, I want to cover that up. I want to,
Yeah. And I
you know,
can relate to that too. Like I remember I worked at a law office and I think about it now, I was like, he probably wasn't that bad of a guy. But at the time I was like, oh fuck no, I don't want this attention. But I remember he always used to compliment my shoes. Like I always wear heels, like nice fitting slacks and like nice blouses or whatever. And he'd always used to compliment my heels. I forget exactly what he would say, but I remember feeling really uncomfortable because I'm like, what man notices a woman's heels like that to like compliment it every single day? Like, it's just like, I don't know. This is super weird. And I literally stopped wearing heels because I didn't want him to keep complimenting.
yeah,
And he even was like, oh, I noticed you're not wearing heels. And I'm like,
I bet you did.
amen. I was like, and you validated even more. Like, ew.
Either that or maybe he wanted to borrow them. You never know.
That too, that I was thinking. I was like, honestly, maybe. I don't know. But he was like a very, very tall, like to me, just the quintessential atypical. He was like a really tall guy, Caucasian, just like your run of the mill, little bit chauvinistic. Like, I don't know, but
Chauvinistic men are the most unattractive men
they're
in life.
gross. They're
They
so
are just so like, oh, I work.
that chauvinistic men sexually objectify women and literally look at them as objects
Oh, yeah.
and don't think that they have feelings or that there's going to be mental
They don't give a fuck
repercussions
if you
like
have feelings or,
at all
and
at
it's
all.
not that serious. Why would you take it like that? Well, you shouldn't have looked like that if you didn't want this. They they take you just being a woman as a mixed message and they go with it.
Right.
And they don't misinterpret it. They interpret it for whatever soothes that ego of them.
And usually these men are really insecure, are probably in marriages that they're fucking miserable
And
in, constantly cheating, constantly dipping their dick into different types of women.
for their
Like,
own validation.
exactly.
Like,
Exactly. For their own validation because it's like I have this many notches on my belt. You
yeah.
know what I'm saying? And like
Being a
I,
man, like, oh, I'm a man. Like,
exactly.
and
Exactly.
to me, I want the man that's unattainable. I want a man now at this point in my life, like I think when we were younger, you wanted the attention of the fuck boy, like, oh, you want the guy that's looking at all the girls.
I really did. I wanted the
Yeah.
attention of
I
both.
wanted to be the one who changed his life.
We
Like
were
he was
pick
gonna fall
me
in love
girls. I was a
with
pick me
me.
girl.
Yeah, the pick me girl. He was gonna fall in love with me. I was gonna change his life. He was not going to look at other women after me because
Captain Save a Hose. Hmm.
now I don't want that guy that is blocking at everything or has these notches. I want the man that's in the cut and unattainable.
Yes.
I want the guy that is not into all these women and because he's secure in his manhood, because he's got his shit together and at the end of the day, I had this conversation the other day that we're taught that marriage is like a sacrifice and marriage is built on love and the woman takes care of the home and the man takes care of the bill.
You'll grow to love him.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh my God, how many times have you heard that? Ah, the nails on
Like
a
what?
chalkboard. Or like, oh, but you know what? You made a vow. Like you made that vow. You
So
have
did he.
that
And
vow.
he's like,
And
oh
it's
no, but
like,
it's always down to the woman. It's always down to
But
the woman.
now to me, and I was a girl who wanted to get married.
Yeah.
I wanted to get married. Since I was a little girl, I wanted to get married. I wanted to have this wedding. I dreamed of my wedding literally since I was a little girl.
Mhm.
To me now, the meaning of marriage isn't even based off of just love. To me, marriage is an investment. It's a business transaction.
Ooh.
Because if you think about it, you are integrating every aspect of your life with a partner.
Right.
Love is just one portion of it. And if you look at men and women and their relationships in a lot of marriages, the love part is the only part that they share. Everything else is pretty much separate. For me, I want a partner I can integrate my life with. I want to be able to love you. I want to be able to grow with you. I want to be able to have financial security with you. I want us to be able to both bring those things to the table so that we are on an even playing field so we can enjoy the love part. Because if there's a constant ego and struggle for all those other things, because I'm trying to prove I'm a woman and he's trying to prove he's a man, but this is not anymore what women are supposed to do, and this is not anymore what men are supposed to do, then we're here for the love, but we're also growing together and we're watering each other. It's an investment. I'm integrating how I'm raising my children with you. I'm integrating my finances with you. I'm integrating my household with you and living conditions with you.
Mm.
So like it's more about a business transaction. I want an asset, not a liability.
That part. That part. Like, it's like Neo's song, "I'm a movement by myself, but we're a
But
force when we're together."
exactly. You know what I mean? Like I want that. I don't want a man who's gonna take care of me, who's
Yeah.
gonna, I've had things offered to me. I had a man who said to me, just get married to me. You can stay home. You can do whatever you want. You can stay home. You'll never have to work another
It's
day.
like,
I
"Ooh,
said,
that
"Honey,
sounds
why?
great
I
and
want to work."
enticing. You mean sign my life and my freedom away? No, thank you.
Exactly. I
No,
want
thank
to
you."
work. I like to work. I'm a woman who enjoys working. I enjoy doing my own thing,
Mhm.
So it's like that it's an investment to me. And honestly, the more guys that I talk to, because I have a lot of friends that are married, a lot of guys, that's where their unhappiness comes in after a while when they're married. I've had a lot of guys tell me, she just doesn't bring as much to the table as I do. Because
Mm.
what they look at as bringing to the table is, completely different than what we look at. So we feel like, oh, well, because we're taking care of the house and we're cooking and we're cleaning and we're doing this, like, we're bringing all this stuff to the table. When he's looking at it like, I'm paying for this, I'm paying for that. She's making barely any money, or she's just home taking care of the house. It's
Mm.
a power struggle, and it becomes
Right.
competition. But if you're both investing in each other and you're integrating those lives and those levels together, I think that you have more of a chance at success at what a marriage really is. A marriage is a union. You
Mhm.
choose a business partner off of love, but you're going to trust that person with your finances and with your business and with your livelihood. What's the difference between that and a marriage?
That's an excellent point, and I just think the conversation around marriage has to change too. Like,
Oh,
marriage, like I say it all the time, the origin of marriage. Like, let's talk about where it really came from. It was literally to unionize two families so that they can expand on their land that they had. That's so it started out originally as a business transaction. So it's like, I'm
it-
marrying this woman because her daddy got a farm and 8 goats, and I'm trying to get that farm
yeah,
and 8 goats.
right.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
need the ninth goat. Like,
And it wasn't until later with the engagement ring and the romanticizing of like you need to find a husband and that didn't come until later. And I feel that's where it got really convoluted, and women weren't working in the work field in the workforce like that. So they're like, "Oh, you got to nab yourself a husband so that you can get taken care of and have kids, and like you'll be good. You won't be homeless and out on the street."
right. So is
But
that
then
where our sexualization came from? Because that's how we got the husband.
this is true. Okay. Okay. We're digging up some more roots here. So it's like, yeah, so there was a generation, there was a time of just pick me's, like where you had to be a pick me to get these husbands. Like we take it all the way back to royalties and what is it, like, let's use Bridgerton as an example, like where you would have all of the women in that land, they would go to the queen's castle and it was like a courting system.
Yeah,
Like they would go step in front of the queen and she'd be like, all right, cool, you invited to the ball. Then the next one would be like, cool, you're invited to the ball. And these were all women who were supposed to be prospects for the prince so
right.
that he can get married and then have an heir. It was all transactional, but
Yeah.
the women who wanted to become chosen had to.
Fit a certain mold.
Exactly.
But also,
Exactly.
let's talk about polygamy.
Hmm.
So I had a conversation with somebody who wanted to be a polygamist. And they were talking about how they wanted to be a polygamist, not to be a misogynistic and have sex with multiple women. It was transactional. It was about growing their kingdom and their wealth and essentially having a kingdom, having a family, having multiple wives that can all bring something different to the table for each other. And
Interesting.
as they're telling me this and offering me a position in the kingdom, um,
We have a position open if you're interested.
I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, well, damn, why can't I have multiple men?
That part. Okay.
And
Okay.
well, I said, I'm not mad at, that actually makes so much sense. Like, it's oddly enough, I can understand and wrap my head around that. Had I been the insecure girl I was 15 years ago, probably not. Like, oh, hell no. But at this point in my life, I'm like, so you mean to tell me, what if I get three husbands and each one of them brings something else to the table? Then I don't have to worry about putting all my eggs in one basket.
You know what's interesting about polygamy? You don't see women with multiple men. You usually see men with multiple
Yeah.
women.
That's why I was like, wait, why can't I do it?
I just thought about that because, like, even me, like my body, like the training that I've had throughout my life, like I'm like, a woman can't have multiple husbands. Like, what does that look like? Like, automatically, I
Yeah.
want to be like, that's not right. She taking
Yeah.
three dicks. Like, what the fuck? But it's
Yeah.
like, but that's not what polygamy is. It's about
Right.
relationships. It's about what they're bringing to the table. Like, automatically, I want to objectify and sexualize the situation.
And this man was literally not into this whole. He was like, it's not even about the sex part of it. Like, we can all satisfy each other. That's great. But like, I want it for the investment purposes.
Okay.
He's like, if you get to the bag and she gets to the bag and I get to the bag, imagine how many bags we have. And I
I'm
was
not
like,
mad at that approach.
right? I mean, it could have just been him kicking game to try to get me to join that whole. But
Either way, I'm listening. It's a good
at
approach.
the same time, it changed my perspective because I was
Right.
like, damn, but what if I do that? Like, hmm,
Right. Right.
'cause
Keep that
I might
information.
want me. I might want to get me a couple little links and see what's good. Because if I have a man that can fix things, and then I have a man that can make money, and then I have a man that can, um, do something else, like, I'm really living. I don't have to rely on one man for all those things because they not everybody has all those things. So
Mhm.
all the pressures we put on men to be able to, kill the bugs and change the light bulbs and build this and do that. What if I have four different men? Then I don't have to, like, I can love each one of them differently
Hey, live.
because
That's living like a queen to me.
I don't have to be annoyed with him because he doesn't know how to do laundry because the other one does.
Rotate. Next. Like lazy Susan. Just
So
like,
I thought about that and I was like, damn, I'm
mhm.
not mad at this at all. When, essentially we look at polygamy, like, look at this guy thinking he has 10 different wives. Like, what is this? It's not about the sexual part of it. It's about the investment, I guess. I don't even know what you would call it, but
It's about the business transaction. Absolutely. It literally is an investment. It's like, what are you bringing to the table? But like, even with polygamy, like the little bit that they do show on television and the media and stuff like that, it's all sexualized.
and it's all
Like,
women laying around the man,
yeah.
grapes, fanning him, your
Yep.
royalness is clean. Like, you know what I mean? And
Yep.
I'm like, I want to. I want that to be me, but with all men around me, right?
Yeah, it's like, can we
Like, I
reverse
always said
it?
I wanna have, like, a huge party and have all these men, like, bring me in on this big, like, chair, like, you know what I mean?
Hey, I love that. That is an excellent fantasy. Like, instead of
Coming in, like,
fetishizing a
all
prince coming in of like, "Oh, Imma get
yeah,
that."
no,
It's like, "No, I'm the queen, and you gonna try and get me." Like,
I
that's
mean,
brilliant.
I don't even mind putting them on leashes. No, I'm just kidding.
It's like, "Hey, hey, I'm mad at it either, girl. I ain't mad at it either." But no, that's absolutely real, and I do and I don't know if it's because, the people that I keep close to me, are for the most part, like, pretty like-minded in, life's philosophies and stuff like that, but I'm hearing more and more the conversation around monogamous relationships change. Like, one of my really good friends, he's like, I thought I wanted to be monogamous and I'm in love with my girlfriend. I love her, but like I don't know if a committed relationship is something that I want to do. Like if I think about it, if I really think about it, do I really want to give up my most formative years for a committed relationship? And like as many times as we went back to this conversation, he's just like, I just don't see it. I can't imagine just being attracted to one person my whole life. And I was like, honestly, that's not bad that you're thinking that way.
Honestly, that's human nature. We are not designed to be monogamous. At the end of the day, a certain level of promiscuity is totally human.
Hmm.
And I think that, you know, I don't think we're meant to be with one person. I think that there's different versions of us that belong to certain people. And I think once those versions of us die, we outgrow those people because
I
we
believe that. I believe
like I
that.
could never go into a past relationship because the girl that they dated is gone. She's no longer here. She's no longer available. I don't even know her. So how am I going to give you her? And I think that different levels of us require different versions of ourselves, but also different versions of other people. Like I always say this, what I looked for in somebody in my 20s wasn't the same as in my 30s. And that's why you see a lot
Absolutely.
of like 10-year relationships, they could be the happiest they ever are, but if you're not evolving and growing at the same rate, which is very rare, which is why I say business transaction, marriage, you have to be growing together. If you're not growing at the same rate and evolving at the same rate, which is most likely not going to happen, your relationship is not going to survive that.
Right.
And it will if you
Absolutely.
settle.
Hmm.
But the guy I was paying attention to in my 20s is certainly not the guy I'm paying attention to now. And even
Right.
in my 30s. In my 20s, in your 20s, you're looking for the guy who's got the car and the
Yeah,
swag and
we clout chasing in our
yeah,
20s. There wasn't any
exactly.
substance. Like
And then in your 30s, you're like, oh, he has to have a good job. He's got to have benefits. He's got to have, he's got to have a college degree. He's got to have, be family
starting
oriented.
to get more transactional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get engaged and married and have babies with that person, and that's what you're focused on. Now, at this point in my life, I'm like, I want to make sure the person that I'm integrating my life with not only is an investment, but also is gonna have my back and look out for me when things go really bad because I'm nearing a point in my life where at some point things on me are going to start shutting down or what if something really tragic happens and I need that person to take care of me physically, am
Mhm.
I going to be able to trust them to have my best interest and
Mhm.
take care of me the way I would my kid? When you take care of a child, you're always doing right by them, making sure they're clean, making sure they're groomed, making sure
Right.
they're good because they can't do it themselves. Now I'm at a point in my life where I'm on the downslope of that, where those kind of things are going to start to happen eventually. Is that person I'm with capable of that? Am I going to trust them? Or
Mhm.
are they going to have me out here looking crazy?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know? So I think there's different levels in our lives where we look for different things. But I also think that that narrative has to change. We've evolved so much as a society that I
Yes.
think that that narrative has to change of what marriage is, what a woman's role is, what a man's role is. Because, like you said in the beginning, we were told that we can do anything, but we're also told we have to be everything. So I
Yeah.
have to go to work, come home, and still cook and clean. It's the same thing when my sister had said, you know, like we glorify these men for doing things like taking their kids and watching their kids. And it's like, bro, this is your kid too. Or, doing the dishes, like you live here too.
It's like we need to stop patting men on the back for doing the bare fucking minimum.
Exactly. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why I can understand what your friend is saying. Like for me, I honestly enjoy my freedom because people are always like, why are you single? Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, aren't you ready to date? And I'm just like, why do I have to be ready why do I have to date? Like, why does that
Such an
validate?
expectation, like, and that's another thing too. It's like, oh, something must be wrong with you because you're single or you're not dating or there aren't men in your phone. Like something must be awry.
No, there's men in my phone. However, I'm not trying to date them. That's the
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
and that's because I've leveled up on a woman level and I now know what I'm looking for and what I'll accept and what's not negotiable. And I think that now, like I look at it now and I think about like, what if I did find the guy that I was ready to be interested in to a point where I'm going to start being consistent and dating them on a consistent basis and then developing into something serious. What if they came to my house and like moved in? And I'm like, oh my God, I don't think I could do that again. Like, I don't think I can live with another guy again. Like, I
Mhm.
don't want to integrate them into my home. I don't want to see their wet towel on the bed. I don't want to see their socks on the floor. Like, I will bug out. And I'm like, is there something wrong with me now? But
Mhm.
or am I just perfectly content with who I am that I don't
Mhm.
need that person in my space to validate me?
And there's no society leaves no, and like that's I love that you brought that up because that is a prime example of society does not give us room to figure that part out. Like it's like, "Oh my god, I'm not doing what's expected." Like you said, "Is there something wrong with me?" But it's like, "Nah, I'm just content. I'm happy where I'm
Oh,
at."
I actually like being single. I like doing what the fuck I want when I want to, not having to deal with somebody. Like, you know how many of my friends can't come chill with me because they have to check. And it's not even like, oh, I have to check with my boyfriend. It's just like, oh, I have to see what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like, you become a pair. And it's like, well, what about us? And I always say this is another thing that I always talk about is like guys allowing women to continue on being who they are. Like if you see a lot of married people, it's like the guys will still go play basketball every week or go to poker night every week.
Yeah.
They don't sacrifice those things with their
Right.
friends to stay home and watch the kids. And we can't even like to arrange a paint and sip, it takes 6 months. And it's like 1 hour, and their husbands are calling during that 1 hour about like where are the diapers.
Right.
Like, dude, let your marriage would be so much more smooth if you gave me back my friend a little bit and let her hang out with me so I could tell her how fine she is. So I can tell her she looks good with that new haircut and those jeans on so that she can laugh and she can let go and she doesn't have to be the mom or the wife for a little
Yeah.
and continue to be herself so that she doesn't lose herself in being a wife and a mother and a marriage.
And that's so important. And I want to real bring the conversation back to sexy versus being sexual. But it's, me as someone who's I'm thinking about already, like, okay, like I'm gonna start thinking about getting pregnant and stuff like that. And one of my main things is like it's so important for me to continue doing the things that make me me. Like just because I'm going to be taking on another title or, gonna be in charge of, another human, I'm gonna have to put the mom hat on. But that's just it. It's a mom hat. I still have me, I still have Rissa, I still have I'm not gonna be against mommy needs a moment. Like, it's gonna be, you know what I'm
It's so
saying?
important to do that, and I was that way,
Mhm.
and, let me tell you, it saved me from a lot of depression.
I'm sure.
Um, it's so necessary for us as women to not just be the mom or to have somebody look at you and be like, "But you're a mom now." And? Also,
So the fuck what?
like,
Shan Booty, shout out Shan Booty. She is an influencer, and I believe a sex psychologist also. She's also a new mom. And I loved watching her through her pregnancy, because it was very important for her to portray the message that just because you're a mother does not mean you lose who you are. And she did this photo shoot fully dedicated to putting on looks and styles and portraying hobbies that identifies her while she was pregnant. And I thought that that was such a powerful, powerful, powerful message because all too often society's like, you're a mom now, you need to sit down, you need to
yeah,
calm down, like you're an example now. And it's just like, nah, like I want my kid to see me in my full glory. I want them to see all the colors of me, like.
yeah. And I give that to my son 100%. And like I don't hide who I am. I adjust accordingly for
Sure.
the example I want to set for him, but I let him see me in all of my phases. I let him see me in all of my light. I let him, I hide the dark from him because obviously that's not what I ever
He's
want.
still a baby, yeah.
Him as my
Mhm.
boy. But, I think that it's important as women that we don't lose ourselves and we're allowed to still be who we are. There was a point in my life where I was wearing so many different hats and I got really depressed because I just wanted to be. I didn't want to be a mom. I didn't want to be a boss. I didn't want to be a sister. I didn't want to be a friend. I didn't want to be anything but me. And no matter where I went and whose presence I was in, I was always dragged into one of those boxes. And I became like, I just wanted to like run away from everyone and everything because I felt like I was losing who I was as a person.
Yeah,
I just
I
wanted,
know that feeling. Mhm.
and it's super important, especially when you have kids, to make sure that you do that.
Yeah.
Don't give up on your life and who you are and the things that you enjoy. Take that time. It's so necessary to
You
go out.
still gotta fill your cup, especially I feel as a parent, you have to make sure your cup is full. Make sure you're like so that you're continuously able to pour into this person that you're in charge of. And like I love Sex in the City. I've watched the first movie and the second movie way too many times. And there is part of one of the girls' stories, Charlotte. She's now a mom of two in the movie, and she ends up going to Dubai with the rest of her friends. And throughout the movie, she's, trying to keep on a straight face. Like she has a really fussy 1 year old, and like her 5 year old is just like constantly nagging. Like you can clearly see, like she's had it up to here as a mom, but she wants to make sure she meets the standards of what's expected of her. Like, I'm a perfect mom. I've got it together. I can bake the cupcakes. I can do it all. I can do it all. And, even though she has a nanny, even though she has help, like, she's just like, this is just a lot. So her friends end up forcing her. They had to force her to take this trip to Dubai. And on that trip is when she realized, like, damn, I feel a little guilty saying this, but I'm really happy my daughters aren't here right now because I'm able to I feel like myself. I haven't felt like myself in months. She's like, I love them to death, but I'm kind of happy they're not here. And I'm
And I
like,
can promise you every single mom feels that way. And that is one of the realest lines in that movie because as a mom, you feel guilty for saying or wanting peace or wanting to do something yourself.
mhm.
Like now your sole purpose is dedicated to this little human that you grew. That's your responsibility and that's solely your purpose now in life.
Right.
And while it mostly is, you also like to me, I look at it as like I have a chance to like live again and like repeat like the joys in life. You know what I mean? Like I get to go back to being a child and like letting loose and like we go chase rainbows when it rains in the summertime and like
Hmm.
little things like that. But at the same time, that's the realest thing in the movie. Like because women, like I always say, like a woman has to remember everything. And
Mhm.
ask any man and woman in a relationship, or let's just say marriage because it's more like defined, I guess. when is the next birthday party? Whose birthday is next? When is the doctor's appointment? What's the PTA meeting? What is the password for this? Where are the keys? Like women, we have so much going on up here. Like we have
Yeah.
to know it all. If you ask my stepfather when somebody's birthday is, he has no idea. He's just like, I have no idea. Like he literally probably doesn't even know my birthday. He might because I'm his favorite, but no, I'm just kidding. But like men don't know any of that. We are relied on for the a tremendous amount of
We're executives, we're secretaries, we're
yeah,
nannies,
right,
we're like sexual deviants in the bedroom, like
right.
we're
But then
like
be sexy out in the street because you're a mom.
see? And that's crazy. Again, Shan Booty, like I love how she was like, I feel sexy being pregnant. And I know that comes from already having felt sexy like prior to that. Like she was already very like solid with herself. And that's where bringing it, looping it all back around, it's like, what is sexy? Like, what is defined as sexy? Like, we know what being sexual is. Like the whole motivation behind being sexual, there's like it's objectifying, it's very surface, there's no depth to it, it's very physical. Like we know what it is. But being sexy is an essence. It's an energy. Like I've been told that, you know, men find me sexy because they're like, you're so confident. I love how you hold yourself. You know how to take a compliment. Like, it's like the surety that I have with myself, I know seeps out of me and
It's a
people feel
confidence.
that.
It's exuding
Mhm.
a certain level of confidence and security with who you are. And I think that is our gateway to our sexuality. I
Mm,
think that that links us to harnessing our sexual energy in a positive way.
yes.
We can own it without being objectified because
Yes.
there are so many other things that make me sexy besides what I look like. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like,
Right.
and I think that that is how we as women need to accept and need to learn that power. Because if we learn that at a young age, imagine we would rule the fucking world.
Oh my gosh. I don't know
And,
where I'd be right now.
and then understanding the power of the P is a whole nother level and dimension of spiritual power.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a whole, I mean, you can
Yeah.
capitalize on that in so many other ways. But learning how to take that and use that and harness that energy in a way that is just feeds back into your soul and your sexual energy and who you are,
Right.
self-love. It's like such a crazy sense of empowerment. And I
It
think
is.
that's what makes us sexy is once we understand who we are and love and appreciate ourselves for that, then we can start to harness in that sexual energy and change the narrative for being sexual to sexy.
I agree. I wanted to near the closing of this episode, I asked a question on Facebook. I asked my followers, "What's one thing you find sexy in a person without it being sexual?" And I've got quite a few comments, and I'd like to share some. This helps me gain a perspective on like where people's heads are at, how the general consensus, well, at least in my little world, views these things. So we've got someone that said, "Smile, scent, and sense." Oh, common sense, that is. Common sense is very sexy. When somebody is open to anything, to food, adventures, I'm like, I love that one. I can totally agree. Someone said, that's tough. Come on, Leon. Dig in those archives. Danielle Washington said, a man's confidence in the way he loves his family is sexy. I agree.
Agree.
When he flexes his biceps or winks, flirtatious eyes and smile, holds his hand up to mine, looks at me with admiration or holds me close, intimacy. So intimacy, confidence, and family is sexy to her. Diana Stewart says intelligence. Kay Williams says being knowledgeable and able to execute. Carla Kimball, my girl, Bantu Nas is going to be dropping in April. Sense of humor. Oh, she got a list. You weren't kidding, girl. Sense of humor, a nice smile, fresh haircut, fresh
Yes,
locks.
fresh hair, gentlemen, and cut your nails. Please keep your nails cut.
Oh my God. Or if you haven't cut them yet, please clean under them things because I hate seeing just dirt. Ugh.
Just cut
Just
them. Cut them. Get a
saying.
nail clipper.
Um, a nice subtle cologne mixed with his pheromones when he operates in my love language, especially acts of service, spirituality, intelligence, the gift of gab. The gift of gab is so sexy because you have to have a level of intelligence to be able to hold good banter. Um, Let me see. And then when he has impeccable taste in music. Oh, Carla, I
Oh,
already know, girl. I already know, girl.
no.
I know it's my favorite. Was like, you know this song? Okay, you get a point. You get a
Yeah,
point. But
absolutely.
and then another one, Joe Renee, a way a man smells and wears watches. She likes a man to wear a good watch. So
Oh,
that is an example of how what people find sexy is in accordance to them and what they like and what they took the time out to learn about themselves and being like, oh, this is what I like in a man. This is what I find sexy. You know, a couple of people were like, oh, biceps, the way he winks, like whatever. But for the most part, they were looking for experiences, you know?
what about you? What do you define as sexy?
I define as sexy. So a lot of it was mentioned on there. I witty humor. Like I need intelligent witty humor because I need someone to match me on that. If you don't get my sarcasm,
Sarcasm. You have
oh
to be
man.
sarcastic and be able to go back and forth.
Yes.
Gift wars.
Yes.
If you can have a gift war with me, you win.
You're like so hot. You hear that, guys?
Like
Give her
keep
a good gift for.
dry conversation is such a turn off for me.
Yeah, same. That's like the main thing. Like that's kind of like what gets my attention. And then I guess if we're talking physical, I like muscles. I like a good build. I like to feel like I'm being
I
hugged
like
by a bear.
basketball player arms and shoulders. The rest be a little bit of,
A
extra.
little
But
bit of
yeah, I'm fine with that.
yeah.
I don't like super fit guys. I think they're like if a guy's too vain, I'm so not into it.
Yeah.
I like them to have, that little, they like to let loose a little bit. They're not in the gym taking pictures of themselves. No offense to you guys that do that,
No offense, love y'all, but I'm
but
usually able to tell a lot by someone who does that. And I'll be like, you know what? It's just not for me. It doesn't mean that you're a shitty person. It's just not for me.
it's for other people, just not me. But
That's it.
I
That's
do
it.
like clean
Peace
back
and love.
and neck and nails.
Be
But
clean.
I like a man who's a gentleman, who's in the cut, who's not accessible, who's not loud, who's not obnoxious, who's not looking for the attention of everybody. Look at me, you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
hold a conversation, and who is in touch with their masculine and feminine balance. There is
Like it's a
huge,
huge thing of like I need a good listener. I need someone who's empathetic. You know what I'm saying? Like personality, like that differs, but like the three main ingredients is like I need intelligent banter. Like I need that. Like that for sure. I cannot go without or else like shit's just gonna be boring. And
humor,
then yeah, absolutely. Like you gotta
and
don't take yourself so
that,
seriously.
yeah, and like respect. Like I love a respectful man. That's just that like does it without being prompted to. Like guys who
Yeah.
really like open the door or like, like if you have your hair in your face, they'll brush it out of your face. Or like little tiny things like that are just so, like
It
when a
shows
guy
consciousness, it shows that they're aware, it shows that they're, like, thinking about you and they're outside of themselves, and it's like, that's the type of person that I would like. Like, it's like,
like
you
the
know,
way
like,
Justin Bieber looks at his wife, you're
"Oh
just like,
my god, he loves that woman and she eats it up," and I love
yeah,
that she allows him to love her.
yes,
Like, that's a huge thing
yeah.
too.
And they're like that, like when he's just like she's talking and he's kissing her, and it's just like, oh my god,
My heart, oh my
yeah,
god. Like,
like
yeah.
aren't afraid to do that. You know what I mean? They're not afraid to be in love. They're afraid to balance that masculine and feminine.
Yeah, for sure.
Be smart, be witty, be funny, and then have a
Yeah.
little bit of manliness.
You know, just and then that's the thing. It's like, and this is just our type. Like, this isn't to say that men who do not align with things that we're
Don't
saying, or this is not who that you're explaining. This is just because Steph and I have taken the work to identify what works for us, what aligns with us, what, opens us up and wants us to connect with people. Cause it's like we all have people that we're physically attracted to. We all have people that we're mentally and spiritually attracted to, So I definitely dated men who did not physically meet that standard at all, but their
me too.
personality was A1. And I was like, that's why I always start with banter and personality, because from there I can build on the rest.
Exactly. Like if you make me laugh, you have my full attention.
Yeah.
Like I love me a funny guy. Funny guys, let me tell you something. You guys are winning because it does not matter what you guys look like. If you are funny, you have our attention. Like I love me a good funny guy. Like I don't really care what they look like. I love a guy with a sense of humor, but
Same.
not like too much where they're gonna be like busting on you all day. Like there's gotta be a limit.
Yeah, because then it has me thinking like there's a dark side to
Because
all
that
this
plays into the
humor. Like,
role of a man where he's constantly downplaying other people to make himself feel better. So there's like a real fine line, but a funny guy, love it.
exactly. Just perfectly balanced, all that, not perfectly balanced, but balanced enough. Like we're almost
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
But yeah, so that I think wraps it up for today's episode. Stephanie, was there anything else that you wanted to touch on, or, you know?
I don't think so. I think that this conversation can go on and on. I mean, there's so much to literally, there's layers and layers and so many things that, it can lead into. But I think that we covered so much ground. I think that bottom line is it's time to evolve in the roles that we play and, you know, um, start harnessing our energies and loving ourselves in order to become these beautiful beings that we are instead of sexualizing ourselves.
Amen. Amen. Like that hits it on such a good note. And it's all about, and it all comes down to self-love too. Like I want that to always be part of the key
That's
message
always
that,
a message. Yeah. Like
yeah, absolutely. Like you figure out you're sexy when you figure out
who
your
you
self-love.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's
Exactly.
not about meditating and crystals and taking baths. Let me just be real clear on that. The self
Mhm.
love part is looking in a mirror at yourself completely raw and honest with the things that you cannot stand about yourself
Mhm.
and not only acknowledging them but also learning how to work through them to change them to be what you do like and who you want to be or to accept them and learn and to love them and then you start to develop that self-love where you can harness that sexual energy in a positive rather than just sexualize yourself to get that validation.
Be like Eminem in 8 Mile and beat him to the punchline. Like, it's like he's like, if you acknowledge your flaws before someone else can acknowledge them in you, no one could ever take away your power.
Oh, yeah.
Ever, 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 ever. Because it's
And
like,
that's
okay,
when it doesn't work out with somebody now, I'm like, that's a blessing. Like, I
mhm,
never sit around. Like, my friends joke, they're like, you're such a guy. And I'm like, no, it's just that, like, I know it's not for me. Like,
mhm,
I don't need to beg someone for certain things because if they don't have them, they're not going to get them. I'm not going to change them to
right,
have those qualities. They don't have them.
right,
They lack in that department. They lack in that department. I'm
right.
not gonna change that. I'm not the woman that's going to fix you. That point in my life, that girl is gone.
We
Like,
don't do build-a-bays no more. You need to come already assembled.
but I also think that we should start accepting people for who they are instead of the fantasy that we build in our heads about them, both on both sides.
Ooh, yes. Yes. I'm so sad we touched on this near the end of it, but that's a huge one. It's like, and I think that plays into your idea of changing the dynamics of a first date. Like it's because so many times, like how many times have you set yourself up for disappointment because it's like you have this crush on this person, you're fantasizing about them, you're creating this idea, literally this fetish about them, and then you talk to them and it's like, wow, you're not as smart as I worked you up to be in my head. Like that's a
Or
disappointment, like
they get to know you on that interview and know what's pushing your buttons and they start watering that. And then 2 years in, you find out I was just making that up because you were gassing me and putting the gas behind it. You really ain't shit. You know what I mean? So like
Yep.
at that point, you're 2 years deep and you're like, the fuck just happened here? So it's that fantasy of, oh yeah, no, he's not like that. And you ignore those couple red flags.
Right. Yeah. Ignoring of the red flags, man. But
That
nah, we
episode.
got oh man, it's lessons learned, peace and love. But with that being said, guys, tap into your sexy essence, tap into what makes you feel good, that just makes you feel unstoppable. And don't
Love
let
that.
yourself be objectified. Don't let yourself be sexualized, like be aware of that
Mhm.
and what the difference is. But on that note, Steph, why don't you let our listeners and viewers know where they can find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Steph_GEM, Steph Gem, or Vice Girl Steph.
All right, I'll make sure to link that down below. And I'm Rissa SOFAR. You guys already know where to find me. I Rissa SOFAR on all social media platforms. Don't forget to follow Culture Fuzz. Twitter is Culture Fuzz Fuzz.
Follow it.
Make sure you tap in. And that's it for today's episode. Oh, don't forget to be a part of this conversation. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave
Yeah,
a comment.
send us messages, send us DMs.
Your experiences. We want to know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, then.
Yeah,
We are,
combo, please.
would you say?
Let's expand on this combo, please, ladies, especially, and men. We want to hear from you too. We want some
Yes.
feedback. Are you guys
Yes.
tired of us objectifying you with the gray sweatpants?
It's like, I don't know. I be objectifying Michael B. Jordan and shit sometimes, so I don't know. But
Who's not?
but on that note, all right, guys, we're signing off, and we will see you next week. Bye.
You and I team. You and I team.